District Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, April 25th. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046, adequate notice of the meeting has been provided by submission of notice of the time, date, and location to the Star Ledger on January 11th, 2023, and the Hunterdon County Democrat on January 12th, 2023. Notice, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting has been posted at North Hunterdon High School and Voorhees High School, provided to the municipal clerks of Bethlehem Township, Califon Borough, the Town of Clinton, Clinton Township, Franklin Township, Glen Gardner Borough, Hampton Borough, Highbridge Borough, Lebanon Township, Tewksbury Township, and Union Township, as well as other interested parties, and posted on the district website. Fire exits are located in the direction indicated. If alerted to fire, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to the nearest smoke-free exit. At this time, please silence all cell phones. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Bonomi?
Present.
Mr. Chapman?
Present.
Mr. Sologo? Present. Mr. Cardenich?
Here.
Ms. Gallo? Here. Ms. Hintz?
Present.
Mr. Kirchberg?
Here.
Ms. Cotran?
Here.
Mr. Mueller?
Here.
Ms. Salino?
Here.
Mr. Spanton?
Here.
And Ms. Beato?
Here.
Please rise for the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second to approve agenda item 4.1, which is the minutes of the March 14th, 2023 meeting?
So moved. Second.
So it's moved by Jeff, second by Deb. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I have to abstain.
Abstain on 4.1, please.
Okay.
I'm also abstaining.
All right, thank you. Now it's time for the student representatives report. So we'll start with Lauren. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. Hope everyone's been having a good time. I have a little bit of a lengthier report today because apparently I was feeling type-happy last night, but I will make it as quick as possible. So I wanted to begin with our drama club. Recently had an incredibly successful production of 9 to 5. For those of you that aren't familiar with the musical, the show tells the story of 3 unlikely friends who conspire to take control of their company and learn that there's nothing they can't do, all set to original music and lyrics by Dolly Parton. As usual, it was a standout performance from the members of our drama club and a great way to finish out their spring season. Additionally, from this April 14th to the 16th, our Youth in Government Club attended the annual YMCA Youth in Government State Conference, where delegates got the opportunity to debate unique mock legislation of their creation with 300 of their peers. At that conference, Voorhees was named the premier delegation, which is an award that is given to only one participating delegation for outstanding performance in conference, as well as superior recognition from other delegates and staff members. This was our first time receiving the award, and as a member of the club, it was a very exciting moment. Additionally, our Students for Change Club recently hosted a throw and catch tournament, raising about $180 for future club activities. It was a great opportunity just for some camaraderie and friendly competition. Additionally, our AP Statistics students hosted Voorhees' first ever Wireless Wednesday, where students currently enrolled in math classes were given the opportunity to voluntarily hand in their phones for the duration of the school day, and afterwards were asked to fill out a student survey, which the staff students will then be using to develop a research-based report regarding the impact of a phoneless day on student attention, productivity, and a handful of other factors. Our National English Honor Society has been celebrating National Poetry Month for the month of April via the sale of poetrygrams during lunches, and are also currently hosting a poetry competition, which has been a great opportunity for students to showcase their creative writing skills. Along with the Honor Societies, World Language Honor Society and Spanish Club have begun planning for the implementation of a large mural to celebrate Hispanic and Latino culture. We will be recreating Salvador Dali's La Persistencia de Memoria, which is a very famous painting, and that will begin shortly after our AP Spanish students finish up their exams. I'm almost done, I'm sorry everybody. We also had an opportunity on April 20th to participate in Rachel's Challenge, where we learned about the story and the untimely passing of Rachel Joyce Scott, as well as her life motto, that people will never know how far a little kindness can go. And then select students were given the opportunity to attend a workshop kind of focused on how they can further implement Rachel's message both in the classroom and beyond. Now to sports. Recently, seniors Will Kaiser and Maddie Ackerman were named Skyland Conference Scholar Athletes for 2023, which was a great honor. And our boys' spring track team broke a few records over the weekend. Our sprint medley team broke the school record from 2012, and our 4x200 team broke the record from 1998. And after all of that, the rest of us are working very tirelessly to prepare for AP exams and get excited for prom and a myriad of other end-of-year activities.
Wow.
Sorry, that was so long. But
That's a-
I appreciate your time.
That's a busy month.
Yes.
Busy month at
Quite
Voorhees.
successful, yes.
Thank you. Good stuff. Thanks for that report. And now we'll have Sienna. Tell us about what's going on at North.
Seems to be that the typing sickness is going around. So let's get this started. Danica is unable to attend tonight, so I'll be taking care of both of our reports. Starting off with school-wide events, the Relay for Life event will take place on Friday, May 12th, raising money for cancer. Also this Friday, Spike for a Cure is going to take place as well. The English Honor Society will be having a book drive during L1 and L2 this Wednesday. It ends this Wednesday. They're selling paperbacks for only $1, so it'll help fund their club and other future things happening during the school year. The Northern Lights Literary Magazine is taking submissions until May 10th. This magazine is school-wide, it's open for everybody. This past Friday, on what I said, students learned about Rachel's Challenge and had the opportunities to attend a training session for the newly added Friends of Rachel Club, where we brainstormed a lot of ideas for school-wide stuff to further continue the message. The GSA, also known as PRISM, is having their Day of Silence this Friday on the 28th, and will break the silence at 1:30 in the courtyard. It's also open for everybody to sign up and to attend that event that they're having. The Diversity Club is hosting their Cultural Celebrations Day on May 25th. We had a huge turnout last year, and it was a really good event. So I hope that we have the same turnout this year as well. The theater organization is having their spring cabaret show taking place on May 5th through the 7th. The NHV Jazz Ensemble performed at the Berks Jazz Festival on May 29th in Reddington, Pennsylvania, I believe. Also, AP exams will be taking place next week. I know a lot of stress is going into studying, so that should be good for everybody taking them once they subside. Now, sports. Senior Sarah Bisson and Patrick Egg were selected as the Skyland Conference Scholar Athletes of 2023. Also, breaking more records. Softball has gone 13-0, which hasn't happened since 2014. The highest record they went was 4-0. And we recently just lost, so now our record is 13-1, but we have made history. So that is a very good thing. The class of 2023 would like to thank the PTSA for planning the project graduation trip. Also, senior prom is happening May 19th. And lastly, I'm sorry, parents, if you have a senior that's doing Water Wars, we apologize. Water Wars is taking place. Hide your everything. Close your garage doors. Put up your Ring cameras, whatever you have to do, because the prize spot is about $4,000. So it's a serious craziness.
We second that apology,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes.
It's a little bit smaller, but lock your car doors, please, tell your kids. Lock your car doors. But yes, we second that to the community, our apologies.
But if you have a lucky child, that does win the $4,000. Yes.
Ours is not as big, but $2K is still a lot of money. We are donating a portion to charity, by the way, but yes.
Yeah, but that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you both. Very busy, very busy month, that sounds like, at both schools, so thank you for those reports. Anybody have any questions for these guys? No? Everybody good? All right, cool, thank you. We will now move to the next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing and adoption of the 2023-2024 school year budget. We will open with a public hearing presentation on the budget from Ms. Blue.
Thank you. My name is Kate Blue. I'm the business administrator here in North Hunterdon-Voorhees Regional School District. So in preparation of this budget for next year, 23-24, our budget goals were to provide a thorough and efficient education to our entire student population, which also includes Hunterdon County Vocational Academy students, projected to be around 400 students next year. Maintain current levels of all of our student academic courses, co-curricular offerings, and athletic programs. Always maintaining safe and functional, clean facilities, meeting all of our obligations, attracting and retaining high-quality staff members, meeting all mandates, and then, most importantly, preparing it that is fiscally responsible to all of our taxpayers. The tax levy for next year will be 2.2%. That is a net number of a few moving items. It is an increase to our general fund of 3.3%. This includes using bank cap that was generated in 2020, 2021. You can see on that chart that it has 0% for that year. Since we did not utilize our 2% that year, we were able to use it in the preceding 3 years after. So we've been using that the past 2 prior years and in 2023, 2024. We are utilizing a health benefits waiver due to the rising cost of health benefits. And there is no increase to our debt service as we're using excess funds from our 2016 referendum. That referendum went so successfully that we were able to utilize the excess funds from those projects to cover now existing debt service obligations. A little bit more about what that bank cap means from 2020, 2021. What we're able to do is take that 0% and allocate it over the following 3 budget years, and this is the 3rd year and final year that it will be expiring. So a little bit about state aid that we're receiving this year. You can see the last 6 years our state aid has been decreasing. The aggregate decline for the past 6 years is over $1.9 million. In the current year, it decreased over $300,000 just in 1 year. There is a 1-year supplemental stabilization aid that we may be getting in May, and that is still to be applied for, and it looks to be approximately $200,000. Again, that's a 1-year stabilization, and in aggregate, we're still looking at almost $2 million of net losses. So looking at our revenue year over year, you can see the changes in the total tax levy, the increase, and then some declines in state aid, obviously, that we've discussed, Medicaid reimbursement, and lessening our reliance on budgeted fund balance. The total operating budget for revenue is $66.7 million, which is, again, an increase of $1.2 million over the current year. Again, those changes are based on the increase in our tax levy, a transfer from our capital reserve account to cover the referendum that was just passed in November for capital projects, the decrease in state aid, a decrease in anticipated tuition, and also the lessening in our reliance of excess surplus from carryover year to year. Now focusing on the expenditures in the budget, these are the major allocations of the budget, the primary categories. You can see the biggest piece of the pie is salaries, and that's contractual. The next biggest piece of the pie is benefits. There was over a 15% increase in the state health benefit plan this year. To good planning on the board's part, we entered into an agreement to join the SHIF, which is the School's Health Insurance Fund, a jointure, and our increase is to the tune of 5 to 6% this year. So again, mitigating costs in every area that we can. This chart shows the tax share per municipality. We have 12 sending districts, and each of those districts have a calculation to determine how much share of the tax levy is allocated to them. It's a function of the valuation of property in each municipality and the enrollment in that municipality. So this shows that change year over year from last year to this year for each of those municipalities. This worksheet then takes that tax rate and allocates it to each $100,000 of property. So as you have the time, you can look to see where your municipality falls and if you're going to be seeing an increase or decrease in your property tax values in your tax calculation. So after all these items, what are the next steps for our budget? We're going to have a public hearing tonight, the opportunity for public comment, and then the adoption of the budget. We will then certify the taxes of municipal clerks and implement the budget. We will have all of the materials that we're discussing tonight, the presentation, the user-friendly budget, and all of the calculations out on the website for your viewing. And I appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have a public comment segment. During this portion of the meeting, the public is invited to address the board with questions or comments on the 2023-2024 school year budget. The public is requested to sign the register provided for this purpose and to state their name, municipality of residence, group affiliation if applicable, and direct their comments to the school board president. Again, this public comment is related to the 2023-2024 budget only. There'll be another public comment section later. Would anybody like to make a comment regarding the budget? Seeing none, we will move on. Could I have a motion and a second to approve action items 7.1 through 7.3, which is the resolution 042523-3, establishing maximum travel expenditures and maximum professional services expenditures, and adoption of the 23-24 school year budget. 7.2 is resolution 042523-4, authorizing the use of the bank cap. And 7.3 is resolution 042523-5, authorizing the transfer of funds from Fund 30 to Fund 40. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Kim, second by Tara. Any discussion? Yes, John.
First of all, I'd like to thank Katie and the rest of the administration for helping to prepare that budget for us. As the chair of the committee, they make our job really easy, and I'm proud of the budget that has been prepared. I just wanted to bring up to the board's attention one thing that I investigated, combing through some of the calculations as it pertains to the municipal share. So I'm very content with the overall budget, the final number, which is going to be raised through taxes to the municipalities. It's a little over $53 million. However, what I'm not happy about is the way in which each municipality's share is calculated. And it is done in a manner which is not transparent. It's based, as Katie mentioned in her presentation, it's based upon the ratables in the municipality as well as the enrollment in the school, but then each town is given their share. And as a representative of Tewksbury Township, I'm appalled by the fact that we are paying, based upon those calculations, over $49,000 per student that attends the high school. As that compares to other schools, most of them are in the 20s, but there are some as low as $13,900 per pupil. So there's not a lot this board can do. I just want to bring this to the attention of the board and challenge the board to investigate this, because it doesn't sit well as a representative that's I feel unfairly bears a large burden of our tax liability that funds our schools. So I'm happy with the budget. I'm just not happy in the way it is calculated and distributed amongst municipalities. So I'm voting for the budget, but I want to challenge this board to investigate this further, to see if these inequities can be rationalized or dealt with, because it puts our municipality in a tough position, potentially making decisions that nobody wants to discuss. But anyway, I'm happy with the budget, but that's all. Thank you.
So John, just to clarify, just to make sure that it's clear and everybody understands, right? Those formulas, those allocation formulas are, Katie, they're set by is that driven by the state? The math is driven by the state. The valuation of the property in each municipality and the number of students. So, like, I guess, I understand your concern, right? Like, you're representing a sending district that it seems overly burdened by this, right? But like, so, I guess I'm wondering what there is to do about that, right? Like, could we, like, is there a appeals court? Or is there, like, what is, like, I'm wondering, like,
It's
what
unreadable.
do
No,
we
I
do?
think it's a state formula, and unfortunately, I don't think there is a lot that we can do, because, you know, they're given the ratables per municipality, they're given the enrollment, and then voila, this is what your calculation is. So, yes, Tewksbury has a lot of higher priced ratables properties, so that drives that number up, but it's still, you know.
Can we check that, I guess, so to your point though, like, is there like a way to check the math, right? Like, not the math, but check like the numbers that were handed to us by the state and like make sure they're accurate? Like, is there a verification process for that? I don't know. I guess I'm
I'm sure we can
asking.
check it, I'm not sure how much we can do to change it, but we can look into it.
I'm sorry on that though, then are the property values current for this year then? That is, right, so, because the only other thing I was thinking of was you can actually you could challenge the municipality on the evaluation of the properties. That would, to me, seem to be the one thing that could happen. But then you'd have to go through each municipality separately and try to challenge those and appeal it. But like you said, I mean, some of these towns do have a higher property value than others, so it complicates things. But it is kind of surprising to see the amount, given the number of students, and then the equalized valuation just seems askew, right? But
Could be taxpayers reaching out to the governor's
That too.
office and sending letters. 'Cause it's really the calculation, to
Yeah.
Rob's point, that needs to be changed
mm,
and updated.
okay.
Anybody else have any other comments, discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Katie, I think we need a roll call vote.
Ms. Bonomi?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Ms. Crisalogo?
Yes.
Mr. Urbanish?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Ms. Hitz?
Yes.
Ms. Kotran?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Ms. Salino?
Yes.
Mr. Spanton?
Yes.
Ms. Beato?
Yes.
And Mr. Hertzberger?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right, can I have a motion and a second to approve the employment contract between the board and Jeffrey Bender, Superintendent of Schools, as approved by the Executive County Superintendent for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2028? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Brian, second by Deb. Okay, so I just wanted to open discussion on this with, I know we had talked at length multiple times during executive session as we were talking about this contract. And I thought it was important in this sort of month-to-month and quarter-to-quarter world that we live in to like actually stop and take a look back at the last 6 years or 6.5 years that Mr. Bender has been the superintendent of our district. And just to recap what we heard in a lot more detail during executive session, what I think is a pretty impressive track record of accomplishments that have been accomplished during that like sort of body of work. So, you know, starting with one of the things that's most important, I think, is student safety. And, you know, we were reminded of all the work that's been done over the last 6 years with regard to law enforcement, you know, adding an SRO to Voorhees, all the Class 3 officers and the relationships that have been built with county and local law enforcement. And that North Hunterdon-Voorhees was the first district in the county to adopt the Hunterdon Safe Schools anonymous reporting, and has worked collaboratively with the prosecutor's office to spearhead this effort for the entire county. There's been extensive facility hardening and improvements to our security posture within both buildings, and investments made to make sure that our buildings are as hard as they can be for the purpose of student safety. The other thing that we harkened back on was all the challenges from running the district in the COVID crisis. And it was good to remember that, we opened as soon as we were allowed and had students in the building starting in August 2020 and remained open for the duration. And our students in this district had more in-person instruction than other schools in the county, and our students attended in person every day, where other schools were only multiple days per week and not 5 days a week. Mental health has been a big focus. Student and staff mental health has been a big focus of Mr. Bender and his administration, adding ESS crisis counselors to both buildings, a very strong investment in the response to intervention programs, multiple staff trainings on supporting student mental health, and with a theme that repeats itself over and over again is the collaboration with other schools in the county to improve outcomes. On the instruction, from an instruction standpoint, it seems like a long time ago, but Mr. Bender and his administration implemented the rolling drop block schedule, which increased instructional time for almost 90% of the students, and the longer class periods increase the amount of instructional time that the teachers have to cover material with their students. We have added 4 full-time career and technical programs in the district, which we heard about in terms of our enrollment. It's approximately 200 students this year and the revenue that comes with them. And a big accomplishment that we've had the official groundbreaking for, although I don't think any dirt's been moved, the Polytech building. And while that building seems like it's a big strategic success, it's not just the building. It's the full-time Polytech program that will result in students having marketable skills right out of high school. And that investment in technical education is something that I think is a real strategic success for the district. Mr. Bender's been very focused on articulation with our sending districts. We've invested in subject area coaches in math and language arts, working with the sending district schools to improve the sort of leveling of the playing field as students are coming out of the middle schools and into our high schools, to improve outcomes and improve the learning in that freshman year. We have subject area articulation meetings with the K-8 sending districts twice a year, district-wide programs that include the K-8s, and that investment in articulation has then sort of bled downward, and so that the K-8 districts are holding kindergarten articulations, first grade articulations, like that. The idea of working across the community at all grade levels, I think, has been spearheaded by Mr. Bender, and I think that's one of the great successes so far. From a special education standpoint, the district has made great strides and investments in the Lion Pride Academy, which serves students who would have been not able to be served in district and had to have their education out of district. So now we're able to support those students within the district, and so that's a big success. Period. And then there have been a lot of investment in extracurricular activities. There's been 4 new sports that have started: girls golf, boys volleyball, girls wrestling, and hockey, and a multitude of new clubs. And I think one of the things that was a big investment in the sort of changing athletic culture is selection rubrics for any sport that has cuts, to eliminate any sense of things being arbitrary from a cut standpoint. And then last but not least is from a finance and facilities standpoint, the investment in the solar panels and all the HVAC work that has been done over the years. Not only did we secure a $4.9 million grant for HVAC work, but we're driving actual real hard dollar reductions in our utility bills. This year alone, we had an $83,000 in-year clean energy utility rebates. So, and then finally, from a personnel cost perspective, if you look back to, when did you start, 2016? If you look to 2016 to today, the total salary increase across the district was just over 11%. But if salaries had increased compounded annually with the 3% increases that are contracted through for almost all of our staff, that would have been over 19.4%. So that savings of the difference in really effectively managing the district personnel and optimizing the staffing has saved the district over $2.8 million. So there's a lot to be proud of in the last 6 years, and I personally will be voting yes, and I'm looking forward to 5 more years of continuing down this journey. So that's my comment. Anybody else have anything? If not, then we can move to vote.
Thank you for doing that.
That's awesome. All right, so I think we need, any other comments? All right, seeing none, we have roll call vote.
Ms. Bonomi?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Ms. Crisaloga?
Yes.
Mr. Forbanish?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Ms. Hintz?
I have to abstain.
Ms. Cotran?
Yes.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Ms. Selena?
Yes.
Mr. Spanton?
Yes.
Ms. Beato?
Yes.
And Mr. Kirchberger?
Yes. All right, so we will now turn to our chief school administrator's report.
I just want to first thank the board for the vote of confidence, and I feel privileged to work in the district, so thank you. We're going to start with recognition of student achievements. We will have Mr. Peterson go first. He will be recognizing somebody that you're familiar with. All right, Lauren, get up here.
So, I think you all know Lauren Alligood. I don't know if I should be giving this award to her. I feel like I need 2 other certificates for her parents, which are right behind her. Before I get into the specifics of why we're honoring her, I could just give it to her for just being the embodiment of what it is to be a great person, a great student, and if every student was like her, you'd have no need for me. So I'm glad there's a lot of you, but I'm glad there's some of the others. But she's really just a fantastic overall individual, and I could just give this to her for just being awesome. But last year, for the Relay for Life raised over $40,000. She was responsible for a quarter of that. So almost $10,000 was raised by her and her alone. And then recently she gave you the report on the Youth and Government Summit. Lauren actually, who served as a member of the Youth Government's cabinet this year, was also nominated to attend the Selective Conference on National Affairs in North Carolina this summer. So this is for her, and I look forward to all the great things that she has in her future after her graduation. I know she's going to have a very, very strong impact on the world, and I can't wait to see what that is. So.
Okay, next we'll have Dr. Cottrell.
Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce Cameron Lutz. Cameron is a senior at North Hunterdon High School. He's also a member of Boy Scout Troop 200. Cameron is just in the final process of completing an Eagle Scout project at North Hunterdon. And in chatting about this, he said he wanted to really do a project that made a difference and not to put down any other Eagle Scout projects. But he's like, I don't just want to make a bench. I want to do something that makes a difference. So what the project was that he chose, and again, it might not be the most fun project, but it is a project that makes an impact. In each one of our classrooms, we have an emergency evacuation plan. Tells kids where to go in case of an emergency evacuation, as well as some of the other important things to note during an evacuation. Cameron updated all of these for our classrooms. They're almost done, almost up. We're waiting for a few final folders to put them in our classrooms. But he spent over 50 hours doing that. It is making a big difference at North to keep kids safe. And I wanted to commend Cameron for taking on this project and making North Hunterdon better. So, Cameron Lutz. And I forgot to mention, Cameron will be attending Johnson & Wales in the fall, majoring in bioengineering. So.
Sorry, Jen.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple more items. As noted, the AP exams will be administered during the first 2 weeks of May. Also, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment will be administered to freshmen for English and math and to juniors for science during the week of May 15th. We will again run 2 bus runs to accommodate testing May 15th through the 18th. And then just wanted to also reiterate, Rachel's Challenge program was shown to all students in both high schools on Thursday and Friday last week. The program stems from the journal entries of Rachel Scott, the first student killed at Columbine High School. She wanted to create a chain reaction of kindness, which is the focus of the program. A smaller group of students were trained to continue this message of kindness and respect throughout the school year. This is a powerful program that we have shown to students in the past, and we were glad to have them return as the message really resonates with students. The HIV report for this month was that there was 1 incident reported, and it was determined to be founded. And we have to approve last month's.
All right, can I get a motion and a second to affirm the determinations on the HIV incidents reported at the March 14th, 2023 board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Jess and Deb, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, that's well. Just a procedural question, because I'm not sure. So if we weren't at the meeting, we abstain, is that what happens too, or no?
If you don't have enough information to be able to vote on it.
Okay, then I have to abstain too.
And then the monthly reports are attached for your information. We did make a change in how those numbers are graphed to make the graphs a little more user-friendly.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the graphs and the charts? Because those are the ones with the attendance and all that, right? I had a question about the chart showing the different disciplinary actions. And I noticed, as compared with prior months, that there was a large number listed under thefts at Voorhees. So I don't know if there's,
I will look into it and get back to you.
okay, thanks.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now it's my report time, so we'll make that brief. May 23rd, 2023 is our next meeting, and that's the annual goal setting and regular meeting, so that starts an hour earlier at 6 p.m. here in the district administration office. And then just one other thing I'd like to mention, so Deb Bonomi and I have begun the preliminary work to kick off the meetings with the board officers from the sending districts. So we're going to reach out, and in the past, we've done that on a quarterly basis. It's varied, some years 3 times, some years 4. We're going to try to get that started. There's plenty, as I mentioned during my recap of the last 6 years, the articulation and the interaction between the high school district and the sending districts is important. And so if we want to start off those conversations between the president and vice presidents of those boards. So we try to come together on a quarterly basis. So we'll get started with that shortly. And that is my report. And now we'll do committee reports. So Beth, do you want to start with the ad hoc committee?
Sure.
Okay.
So following the February board meeting and the feedback that we received from the public, we convened at the board president's direction a ad hoc committee relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had a group so we formed that committee and have had 2 meetings. The first meeting, it encompassed several members of the board, administration from both schools, as well as some members of the public and student representatives as well, which appreciate the time. And we started talking through kind of what the purpose of the committee would be, the types of things that we're looking to provide. And ultimately, the discussion focused around recommendations that we would provide to the schools, not direction to the schools. The secondary meeting, which we had to kind of better focus the discussion, was held last week. And we feel like we've got a nice framework of ways in which we're going to provide recommendations at different levels of the school district. So recommendations on curriculum, recommendations relating to staff and administration, as well as recommendations on things that the students themselves can specifically focus on. So the goal, I think, is to ultimately come up with these recommendations before the summer break, so that we can implement or make those recommendations in advance of the school year starting again in August. I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to add from that? No? Okay. We thought it important to make sure that the public was aware that we took action really right away, and we'll be having another meeting shortly, early May.
Yeah, I guess I would say that, just I guess to recap, the objective is to assess the feedback that was provided and look at the effectiveness of the current programming that we have in place. There's been a lot of work over the past few years to implement anti-bias programs and inclusiveness programs. And I think the idea is, let's take a good hard look at, how effective is what has already been put in place. How effective is it? And are there other things we can be doing to be more effective?
Exactly.
Are the committee minutes going to be posted in the
They're in the
draft? Not for this last meeting?
No, I haven't had a chance.
The first
Okay.
the first
Which you
meeting
will.
is
Okay.
in
First
there.
meeting's there, we just had the meeting last Thursday, and I had just gotten back from vacation, but they will be there.
Yep.
Beth, is policy recommendations in scope or just program?
I think policy recommendations are potentially in scope. I think we're still a little bit early on whether or not, or what those recommendations look like. Because I think we had talked about the fact that our diversity policy in both school handbooks is somewhat vague and not really specific about the district's position on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that is something that I think would be in scope, in which case we would recommend that to the committee on what type of policy we would want to try to implement.
So Beth and Rob, I know I brought this up a few times, but from a long-term, kind of like incorporating it into the board processes and procedures, so to speak, my request would be if the committee could discuss on each of our committees, embedding it into our committee monthly conversations. Even if it's just a line item that we don't attach to it, just knowing that we always have that lens, just a thought.
I think it's, yeah, it's a good idea, especially I like the community piece of it too, and especially since it is the type of topic that does directly impact the community.
Yeah,
No doubt.
I mean, to your
Yeah.
point, every like curriculum.
Exactly.
Right, yeah, thank you.
Yep, sure.
Mean it the wrong way, but I guess you're sort of looking at, you're looking at the effectiveness of the school's current policies. And I guess I'm asking, in some respect, is it worth, doesn't, someone who does this professionally to effectively sort of join into the committee, right? Because obviously, all of us are not professionals in this space, right? And so it's a sort of opinion. Is there value, because it feels a little bit like a audit, I don't know what the right word is. I'm sort of trying to get my hand around what the committee is doing.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's assessing the effectiveness of what the school's doing. And so I guess I'm asking is not being a professional group that does this for a living, is there value in having someone else on the committee that can advise?
The committee can certainly seek outside resources to aid in their work. So, we can look for,
I'm not advocating for or against, right? I'm thinking out loud, right?
Yeah, no, I think thinking out loud is good, and I would say that, like, so using the word audit is
Yeah, I
probably,
think it's the right
right,
word,
is,
so I don't mean to-
well, I think it's a little too precise,
Yeah,
I think it's
I
a little
got
more
it, I got it.
precise than, I think, I don't think there is, I don't know if we've gotten to, I don't know if I'd say there is or isn't, but I don't know if we've gotten to objective data, right? It's, at least so far, it's been more of a subjective discussion on effectiveness rather than, so, I mean, I don't think that's a bad idea. I just don't know what those resources are and how you get a hold of it. So that's something to look into.
Yeah.
General question, just discussing what Beth just mentioned, I know that we have the policy within the handbooks and stuff like that, and I thought the goal of the committee was to look at it, see if anything needs to be changed, and, tweak it here and there. I didn't hear any mention of additional policies being
Yes.
discussed.
Right, so we haven't talked about policy. So to Brian's question about is policy in scope or out of scope, and Beth, or anybody, I'm not speaking for, I'm speaking my opinion. And my opinion is, I don't think anything is necessarily in scope or out of scope. The ad hoc committee is not going to make policy changes, right? The board does that. We're not gonna, the ad hoc committee is not gonna implement programming. The administration does that. But we're looking at all of those topics. And so while we haven't talked explicitly about policy, I wouldn't say that it's out of scope necessarily. We have talked about the handbooks, the handbooks aren't quote unquote policy. They're not
Right.
district policy. They're guidelines that are, they're they're not even regulations. They're expectations
Exactly.
that have been put forth from each school. We have talked about that the language that's in those isn't maybe as crisp or precise as it needs to be, but the response to Brian's question is I don't think policy recommendations are out of scope necessarily.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think the first meeting, so Nicole, we only had 2 meetings, right? But the first one was really kind of getting our heads around what is the purpose of the committee ultimately? Is it to provide specific ideas that we want the schools to implement, or is it really about assessing what's being done, like Rob said, and then determining if it's enough, or if we need to add, make a recommendation to add a little bit more. So they really are recommendations because of what the purpose of the committee is. And I think that, one of the things that we had talked about is COVID and the period of time that COVID took place, kind of pulled out some of the things that were being done, and then they weren't reintroduced because there were other focuses necessarily. So the idea is to look at what the things were that were in place and say, well, if we had them in place, then maybe we could try to do that again, maybe we tweak it, that kind of thing is what we would suggest. But yeah, I don't think anything is specifically out of, just kind of out versus in. I think we're gonna look at different things and just try to provide some recommendations to make it easier for the schools to implement some changes.
Sorry, do we have goals? I mean, were there goals set at this meeting? What is what do we, I mean, after reading, forgive me if Beth, I just didn't see, is there an overreaching, what are the goals here with this ad hoc?
Assess the,
But when you read the minutes, it seems more than that. I'm just asking, I'm lost with the minutes that I read what was transpiring, and I thought it was the
Right.
goal was to
Yeah. So that-
assess.
So that was the purpose of the second meeting. We narrowed it down and we just had the board and administration for the purpose of better defining the objective. And so you haven't seen those minutes yet?
Well, to your
Because-
point, that's why I asked where the minutes would have probably been most helpful for tonight's meeting.
First meeting was very a lively discussion, and a lot of views were shared, but in a what I would say is for a lot of the meeting in a not as structured way as would have been beneficial. And it got more structured towards the end, but we thought it was a good idea to have a separate meeting to just zero in on what are the outcomes that we're looking to achieve, and what are the objectives and what are the outcomes. And so-
Okay.
And I apologize, I will make sure that doesn't happen again. It's just been,
No, I understand, it's hard to go from
I
that, and
understand.
then you're having no questions, and we're not on the committees.
no, I know, I understand. So
That-
I'll make sure
thank you.
that's better
Thank
for
you.
next time. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Okay. Finance, facilities, and transportation.
I'll be very quick. Most of it was the budget which we just adopted. I just wanted to highlight the fact that the Polytech did receive bids for the new building on our campus here at North Hunterdon. However, they came in higher than expected, so they're back to the drawing board a little bit to either make cuts or re-engineer, redesign, and then they'll have to rebid. So hopefully they can meet that aggressive timeline, but I'm not sure if that's realistic at this point of, I guess it was September of '24 was the original opening date, but anyway. We'll let you know.
How do you make it cut? Do they have ideas of what
I-
might get cut?
Unless you know, Jack.
I haven't, or
Thank you.
All right. Curriculum, instruction, and technology.
Thank you. The committee met on Wednesday, April 19th, and there were 4 buckets of conversations. The first was the board agenda items 14.1 through 14.3. The first is the out-of-district placements in 14.1 that was discussed, and the revised, home instruction, out-of-district placements, and the revised calendar for this 2022-2023 school year. The out-of-district placements are actually tuitions that we will be receiving for out-of-district students attending our district, so a positive, John. The revised calendar is bringing back days that we did not use as snow days. There was an email correspondence that went out to all parents from Marin. Both schools will now be closed on May 26th and June 2nd. Voorhees already had an additional snow day due to a power outage, but North did not, so North will also be closed on May 22nd, according to this new calendar. These dates that were selected were very intentional in terms of making sure that they took place after the AP and state testing so that no instructional days were lost. So the committee is suggesting in favor of those 3 items. The second conversation was the seal of biliteracy. The New Jersey Department of Education allows high schools to participate in the seal of biliteracy program. This program recognizes seniors who are proficient in English and 1 other additional language. North Hunterdon-Voorhees District has been participating in this program since 2018. The students previously paid for the test on their own, but this year, the district was able to pay for them with the Title IV funds. We have been encouraging native speakers of other languages to participate in this program, even if they aren't taking those actual classes in the district now. This year, students earned a total of 41 seals. This next year, action items, a letter will be going out to all seniors and their parents about the program to try to even further increase participation in the program. The third topic discussed was the monthly data analysis. We discussed the honor roll. Students who have a 90 or above for all their classes earn the honor roll. Students who have a 94 or above in all their classes earn high honor roll. For the second marking period in the district, around 50% of the students in the district were on either the honor roll or high honor roll. We also reviewed third marking period grades. There were around 17,000 total grades in the district. Around 60% of them were A's, 25% were B's, 10% C's, 3% D's, and 2% F's. The marking period grades overall are similar to the past few years. In terms of action items going forward, we will obviously continue this as a data point each year to analyze and start comparing in the charts that we look at, marking period year to year, and to see any changes. And then the last topics discussed, Mr. Bender was present. He gave us an update that he had met with the North Hunterdon students on April 19th, received really open and honest feedback, and really enjoyed the conversation with the students on various topics, including school safety, mental health supports, after-school activities, and the transition into high school. Mr. Bender will be meeting with the Voorhees students next week. And that's it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Deb? Nope. Okay. Personnel?
The Personnel Committee met on April 19th, and we discussed the personnel agenda.
All right. Thank you. Detailed report. All right. Policy and school security.
So, policy and security met last Monday, all members were in attendance. There are 5 policies up for review time in first reading, which the group recommends reviewing. Just to call out, there was one additional one, bylaw 144, that dealt with board member orientation training. There was a change to that shortened the amount of time that new board members have to get compliant, and it wasn't clear that there was enough time. Training was provided fast enough to meet the requirements, so we pulled that from this, and Jeff will look to make sure that there's actually a portion provided sufficient to meet that before we put it up for first reading. Other than that, I would just call your attention to policy 6112, which deals with reimbursement of federal funds, and you had Katie present at our meeting, so we had the benefit of her input. And I'll just say that we're compliant with that. There was also a new mandated policy dealing with duplication of funds when you're getting funding sources from multiple places for the same cause. And again, Katie indicated we have processes in place to ensure we're compliant with that. There's also 6311 dealing with vendors who are servicing federal grants. And again, Katie brought us a benefit that we're compliant with that. And the last one deals with security changes. And again, we've been compliant with those changes for the past 5 years. So as you review, just keep that in mind. There is one policy up for abolishment tonight. That's 9100 for public relations. So 9100 came into effect in 2001 and 2009. 9120, which is mandated. 9100 is not mandated. 9120 is. We're which is already part of our policies. And 9120 covers 9100, so Strauss estimate effectively recommended policy 9100 because we already have policies in place that cover that. At our next meeting, we are going to begin to talk about the term limits for vice president and the nomination committee. And then subsequent to that, I know there's some questions about the formation of ad hoc committees. We'll review that process.
Thanks, Glenn. So it's good to hear that, in a nutshell, when the mandated policies get updated around financial compliance and things like that, it's good to hear that we already have procedures in place that have us compliant in advance of those mandatory policy changes. So, good job, Katie. So, anybody have any questions for Glenn? Tara, did you guys meet this month?
We didn't, no, we kind of with ad hoc, but, and the delegate is May 13th, but they haven't published the agenda yet.
Okay, thank you. And Kim, anything from the Hunterdon County School Board?
No, we did today symposium. There were 3 of us. And that, right, correct. And we can share, we all attended different portions, so we can, I think you gals did too. We can forward that to the board. It was excellent, very enriching, a lot of material.
Wow.
So I think you'd all be interested.
So is there presentation materials that you guys can forward?
They're going to forward to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're, it's on demand too, so you can, watch.
We can, I think we can share that link with the board. It's till June 30th.
Okay, thank you. Did I miss anybody? No? All right. Thank you for those reports. Now, we will move on to the opportunity for public comment. During this portion of the meeting, the public is invited to address the school board with questions or comments. The public is requested to sign the register provided for this purpose and to state their name, municipality of residence, group affiliation, if applicable, and direct their comments to the school board president. While all comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate, school board members will not respond to the speakers at the time of their appearance. The public comment period will be a maximum of 30 minutes in length unless there are unusual circumstances, and those appearing will be allocated 3 minutes to speak, and no one will be permitted to speak twice until those that have not yet had an opportunity to speak have had a turn. So, anyone who would like to address the board, please come to the podium and sign the register and state your name and municipality.
I apologize, I'm a little nervous, so I might fall over my words here. Good evening. My name is Sharon Knox. I am a homeowner in Clinton Township. I have come before the board tonight to discuss an issue I am having up at Voorhees High School. I would like to talk about my son Jeremiah, who was a junior this year with an ongoing IEP. And we, needless to say, we did have some issues this year that were kind of out of Jeremiah's control, and I feel that the administration did not handle some of it very well. What I really would like to talk about is the ignoring of correspondence by the administration up there. I had sent an email back on the 3rd of April to Mr. Peterson, Mrs. Cantagalo-Rom, Mrs. Kiefer in regards to Jeremiah attending prom. When Jeremiah had signed himself out of school on the 10th of February, we were made a ton of promises in an IEP meeting, which is official, meeting documentation, all of that, that he would get to attend if we followed proper protocols for that, which we did. We filled out the permission form, sent it in, and his girlfriend, who was still in attendance at Voorhees High School, was told that they were denying his request and it was confidential. So, of course, I, as his mother, wrote to everybody in the school and requested a meeting in person, and I would like to know in writing what their criteria was, why they blacklisted my son from attending prom with his girlfriend after following proper protocols. I'm at the end of my rope. As of today, I still have not heard from anybody in that school. It shouldn't be this way. I feel whether he's a former student or a current student, I should be allowed to understand what their reasoning was, why he can't go to prom, so that I could explain it to him, I can explain it to his girlfriend, if there is even a logical reason. I feel like they have blacklisted my son for an event that happened on the 14th of December. My son was pulled over on County Road 513, various motor vehicle infractions, couple other things going on there that I do not wish to disclose at this time to the board. However, the school found out, and we were called in the next day for a meeting, that they were going to discipline Jeremiah for something that should have never been their business. And all of this happened after the school day was already over. I'm hoping that all of you can maybe see where I am coming from. Maybe you can help me. The main purpose of appearing here tonight is because I would like an answer as to whether, yes, Jeremiah can attend junior prom with his girlfriend or not. And if not, I really would like to know the reasoning for that. So thank you for your time. If you have questions, please feel free to ask anything you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Phelan, Caliphone. If you have children in the crowd or online, there are adult concepts coming. So in the interest of human decency, I've sanitized my remarks as much as possible. As his phallus twirled in my mouth, thoughts of the popcorn he promised me ran through my mind. I stared down at the words and began to think back on the terrible act of violence I suffered at the hands of a family member. I felt a sense of relief that someone else had been molested. Someone else had a story to tell also. Jingle balls, jingle balls, jingle all the way. That's right, balls, not bells. Literally speaking, I watched the most popular guys at my school that I once thought were gentlemen standing in front of these freshman girls, yelling obscenities at them. The random chanting of "touch my gonads, you harlot," or "look at my effing gonads, you stupid witch," sprayed the air with the sour stench of beer. After being hazed into the most popular sorority at our school, these innocent girls didn't stay innocent for long. Good evening, board. On March 27th, our juvenile daughter, who is a student at Voorhees High School, brought home the book The Freedom Writer's Diary, which was assigned in her English 2 advanced class. Contrary to its seemingly innocuous title, the book contained significant pornographic material which was provided to minor children. Despite the objectionable material, we as parents never received a parental sign-off form for the book. Above are 2 passages found in a cursory search of material. There are far more contained in the book. We find no literary value that could be derived from graphic descriptions of sexual abuse and sexual degradation of women. As a first responder, I've responded to emergency calls involving sexual assaults and child molestation. There is nothing literary about these events, only abject horror and sorrow. These incidents will live with me forever and continue to stoke a passion in me to protect potential victims from these unspeakable acts. Had a student written this material for a school project, the teacher would be required to report such sexual abuse concerns to school administration, the police, and the state's Child and Family Services. With this assigned reading, the teacher is providing this horrific material to students. Similarly, if a student were to repeat the profanity and vulgarity in this book at a school-sponsored event, they would face discipline for the following policy violations. Profanity and vulgarity of the incidental type, level 1, conference, detention, and potential loss of privileges. Profane gestures or words directed towards another person, level 3, 1-day suspension or Saturday detention, or 2 or 3 extended detentions, loss of privileges, including parking, legal action may result. Behavior with malicious or discriminatory intent. Hate speech, definition of hate speech. Abusive or threatening speech or writing that express prejudice against a particular group.
Sorry, your time is up.
Okay, can I just finish here? I just want to close this because I'll get to the bottom of it, okay? The administration could attempt to explain that our children were going to read the pornographic passages in the book. However, providing this book to students is akin to assigning Playboy for the students to only read the articles. Inquisitive students will naturally read other passages in the book and discover the pornographic materials. Board members, April is dedicated to sexual abuse victims. Tomorrow, in this school district and throughout the world, people will wear denim to demonstrate support for sexual abuse victims and survivors. Think about the irony that we dedicate a month to the acknowledgement and prevention of sexual abuse in our society while we distribute pornographic material to our minor students that degrades females. Obviously, this assigned book and other books that are you taking away my First Amendment right? Because, hold on, we sat here like gentlemen and gentleladies for an hour and 5 minutes. I'm going to continue on. I'm not done. Obviously, this assigned book and other books that are accessible to minors in the school library have no place in any high school environment. And you as the Board of Education have a duty to protect the students. Parents would be understandably horrified if these passages were read aloud at a school event. So they have no business being read in a quiet classroom. Thank you.
So just for everybody's awareness, right, the 3 minutes time limit is announced at the beginning. It is intended so that everybody has a chance to speak. And if there's time at the end of the public comment section, you can come back up to finish. So please try to adhere to the 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Martha Hickson. I'm a librarian at North Hunterdon High School, and I just made a last-minute switch to what I intended to say to you tonight. A maxim from 12-step recovery program states that the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and expecting a different result. By that definition, I declare these proceedings insane. We have been through this nonsense before, apparently learning nothing. My frustration is not with the community member who objected to the book. There is a time and a place to deal with him. No, my frustration is with this board. You have policies and regulations for dealing with public complaints. You have bylaws for managing meetings, yet you refuse to use either. I have here for your convenience policy and regulation 2530, which covers the selection of library materials. We would need 2510 to deal with that gentleman's complaint, which deals with classroom materials, and policy regulation 9130, which covers public complaints and grievances, and the request for reconsideration form, which is the appropriate means for lodging a complaint. Initiating such a complaint at a board meeting is clearly out of process and bypasses multiple steps which could avoid such demonstrations of manufactured outrage altogether. Those steps and the escalation process they represent exist in part to encourage conversation, promote compromise, and curtail the initiation of a formal challenge process, which derails district resources for months at a time. It's ironic that some recent board candidates ran on a platform of fiscal responsibility while simultaneously fanning the flames of book banning. In the wake of the book challenges during the 21-22 school year, I undertook research that revealed the cost of resolving each challenge to be roughly $1,600 per book in materials, time, and productivity. For the 5 books challenged during that time, that's a total of $8,000. That figure does not include the incalculable number of hours I spent responding to inquiries about the books and challenges, nor does it include the cost of damages to my health and the health of the library program. That time and those funds would be better spent serving our students rather than the political motives of organizations like Moms for Liberty and Team PYC, which are fomenting this discord. I urge this board to use the policies at its disposal to appropriately manage these meetings and to direct public comments through the proper channels. That is your job. Thank you.
Wayne Robinson, Lebanon Township. I've been a resident here for 28 years. And I want to thank the diversity group for starting their work. One question I would like to be answered at some point is, how can someone like I be on that committee? Look around the room, I'm stating the obvious. just by my outward appearance. I think I could add to that committee. I'm a retired pharmaceutical executive. I'm a farmer. It's an interesting combination, so I would like to be able to help on the committee. So please let me know how me or someone aside from the board can be on it. In regards to book banning, people asking for that, a famous person once said the two most dangerous things on the planet are conscientious stupidity and sincere ignorance. Banning books does that. That person was Martin Luther King. So I think if there's a best practice for challenging books, that's what we should utilize, not just people being loud, but actually have a process. Because if we have a process, we can ensure it is followed. And I will also ask for process as well for people joining the diversity committee. Thank you.
Excuse me, before we move on, Wayne, did you sign the
Hi again. I've been here a few times. My name is Alexa Offenhauer. I am an alum of North Hunterdon, class of 1999. I will say, I wasn't going to add this, but I will. I want to second everything that Martha Hickson just said. And speaking as somebody who has a PhD in English education from Columbia University, I just want to say that literature is not the same thing as pornography. So I'll leave it at that. What I really came up here to say is I wanted to ask some questions of the DEI committee, and those questions are, how many people of color are on the committee? How many people in the LGBTQ community are on the committee? How many people with disabilities are on the committee? How many members of religious minorities? And why did you choose as one of your committee members a board member who has said she believes that the diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum is very anti-white and who has a history of transphobic and homophobic statements? Finally, just to put an exclamation point on the end of the importance of DEI work, I would like to say that I've heard that there was an incident at North in which a swastika and the word Hitler were written on a classroom wall on Holocaust Remembrance Day. If true, I would like the administration to immediately and publicly denounce such anti-Semitism and ensure that a comprehensive understanding of the horror and scope of the Holocaust is part of the curriculum for all students. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Wilder. I'm from Bethlehem Township, and I just wanted to support the previous 3 speakers, not the last one. The statement about if you have an issue with books that are not appropriate, there's a process for it, not just somebody who rants because they have a personal agenda. And I'd also definitely like to support the previous speaker about who is on the ad hoc committee: diversity, equity, and inclusion, not a homogeneous population. And the report that the ad hoc committee reported on tonight didn't really say anything. We're looking at policy, recommendations, but what is the ad hoc committee's definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what is the board's definition? And I'm assuming I could go online and find what the policy states today, but I'd also like to see what the recommendations are. Is it to make it less diverse? Is it a particular social group's population of definition of diverse? That's really all of what I'd like to say. Totally support the previous speakers. Thank you.
Just sign in first if you don't mind, so thank you. Okay, thank you and good evening. My name is Nicholas LaBelle. I'm from Union Township. I just want to start and say thank you to the board for the time you've spent. I know you have long hours and we appreciate the work that you all do. Three main things I wanted to discuss. I am a former proud alumnus of this school, class of 2017. I wanted to congratulate Lauren. I was also in the Ag program as an officer and a delegate to Kona. And the gentleman saw earlier, Zach, I was also in the same Boy Scout troop, Proud Eagle Scout. So you guys are doing great things here. I appreciate you guys recognizing the work that your students do. Touching on Lauren's accomplishments, in YAG we learned about the vital importances of our Constitution, and I could not agree more strongly with the previous speakers and the fact that the First Amendment protects the right to expression and to learning. So just please bear that in mind in all future considerations. Using the same skill set from this very institution, I went on to become the student body president at Rutgers University, where in part I managed a budget of $5 million, oversaw 40,000 undergraduate students, and in two capacities looked at academic reviews and more so leadership allocating the nation's first COVID recovery fund, helping 500 families, some of which resided in our sending district. So just your graduates are capable of many great things, including you see 200 students here. Trust them with their ability to think critically and move forward in that respect. And then just I really wanted to touch upon the fact that we brought up the funding formulas tonight, and I have a strong interest in this. I ran for state assembly 2 years prior. At a young age, I was asked to run, and that was something that I worked with the current administration and bipartisanly retiring State Senator Orojo and Senator Gopal. So I put my email on this sheet. If anyone has any questions about the funding formula or would like to talk about the current reviews going on at the state, there are 2 bills being heard in this session that relate to this topic explicitly. I would be more than happy to discuss that or help if I could. So again, free speech encourages free learning. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. I'm J.P. LaBelle. I'm also from Union Township, a homeowner there. And I recently had the pleasure of going to Kansas City, Missouri, in our beautiful Midwest for the last 3 days on business, and was interested in seeing what their main library had in this giant banner outside that basically said, what would our community bookshelf look like if we removed every banned or challenged book? I'm supporting all of the previous speakers in requesting more of a appropriate review or request for challenge, that someone can't just give you a list of 30 books, say forget it, we don't want them pulled from the shelves, or they get cute and one person does it for 5 months and the next person does it for 5 months, the other person does it for 5 months. There has to be something where a book can be challenged, but there should be time limits and there should be less repetition, that it can't continuously always be challenged, the same book. In this banner, when they were worried about community books being removed, just some of the listings for children's stories alone, which we know all the Dr. Seuss stuff, but Winnie the Pooh, Little House on the Prairie, Wonderful Wizard of Oz, these are books that were challenged there that they overcame. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Charlotte's Web, obviously To Kill a Mockingbird, things like The Lord of the Rings, and then the collected poems of Langston Hughes. My youngest son loves poetry and has been challenged at Rutgers, another son, not this son, to study poetry and creative writing and things. And Langston Hughes played a lot into that. And luckily, because Langston Hughes was also in the North curriculum, he was well prepared for college, and he really knew how to analyze and critique things. About a month ago, I guess, the last board meeting, there was a couple comments flown around and they were reined in by different members on the board because some other board members, I think, believed they had different privileges than what they thought they could do as a board member. My understanding, and I'm getting this from the New Jersey Boards Association, School Boards Association, the school board has a dual role. Number one is to represent the concern of citizens, taxpayers, and parents to the school administration. And number two is to represent the needs of the students and school district back to the citizens, taxpayers, and parents. The role of the board members is really to see that the district's being well run. You're not the ones necessarily making up the curriculum and telling the teachers how to teach or even what to teach. A school board member must be able to back up their decisions and actions with facts and data. It should not just be opinions. It should just not be the whims of what you feel or your neighbor feels or something else. If your entire town has a problem with the book, that's a different story. But I'm really concerned about the book banning. I'm really concerned about making sure the committees know their roles and that they are more diverse and more inclusive. And I'd like to see our policies reflect that when it comes to challenging or attempting to ban a book. Thank you for your time. And I meant to say I'm very proud of that son. Me too. Future president.
Hello, my name is Gina Sampaio. I am from Lebanon Township, and I was a participant in the first DEI ad hoc subcommittee meeting. And it seemed to me that I was chosen based solely on the fact that I am a mother of students of color at Voorhees, which does give me some insight but no expertise in solving any problems with trying to bring diversity, equity, and inclusion to the schools. The other parents that were invited also seemed to be invited for that reason. I don't know them personally, so I can't say, but it seemed like perhaps just because they were parents of students of color. As far as I could tell, there was no representation of anyone that was representing LGBTQ students or people by themselves, but maybe there were. But I did wonder why that topic was not touched upon at all. So I wanted to thank you for bringing up what are our qualifications of the subcommittee. Because I feel like there are experts in this field, and there's no reason for a group of non-experts to try to redefine the wheel here. So I hope that a question for future ad hoc subcommittee meetings would be a goal for defining what metrics are used to measure success in this, and when we're questioning how do we stop incidents of bias. One of the school admins said in that first meeting that they had some programs that brought about success, but then also what we see recently is an increase in bias incidents. So I want to know, how do we measure what success looks like? So that's all I think I have to say, but I do hope that the district finds effective ways to implement top-down systematic change here. Thank you.
And if you'll indulge me, I'm going to come back to say what I wanted to say originally tonight, because it's a special occasion. Good evening, board members. I am once again and still Martha Hickson, librarian at North Hunterdon High School, and this is National Library Week. And today happens to be National Library Workers Day. So here I am, your very own library worker, to promote the theme of this year's celebration, There's More to the Story. Actually, to call National Library Week a celebration isn't quite accurate, because for the last 2 years, librarians, including this one, have not been in a celebratory mood. That's because of the unprecedented wave of book banning that has swept the nation since the fall of 2021. Our own district was an early target, and if not for the discipline and rigor of this board, all students in the district would have lost access to 5 award-winning books. Earlier this month, the American Library Association released some sobering statistics in its State of American Libraries report. In 2022, the ALA recorded nearly 1,300 attempts to remove books from United States libraries. Those attempts targeted nearly 2,600 individual titles. That's up 1,000% from the 223 titles targeted in 2020. 90% of last year's challenges involved demands to censor multiple titles. In fact, 40% sought to remove 100 or more books all at once. Just yesterday, the ALA released the list of the top 13 books challenged in 2022. On that list are books that will be familiar to you: Genderqueer, All Boys Aren't Blue, Lawn Boy, and This Book is Gay. Why are we seeing the same titles attacked at school after school? Because these attempted bans are driven by a well-organized, well-funded, conservative political movement whose goal is to restrict students' access to only the topics, authors, and content that match their narrow worldview. I bring this up to remind you of 3 important points. 1, you have policies and processes in place to handle public complaints about library materials. In none of those policies is the complaint process launched through a display of manufactured outrage at a board meeting. Please actively manage your meetings to ensure that your policies are followed. 2, on January 3rd of this year, all but one of you voted to approve the New Jersey School Boards Association Code of Ethics, which compel you to support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties. Sadly, in today's climate, we school personnel require protection from defamation at your microphone. Please suspend comments that make such attacks. And 3, 15 months ago, the NHV intellectual freedom fighters sent the board detailed recommendations for improving the reconsideration process. The board has never responded. Those recommendations, however, have taken on a life of their own, and libraries across New Jersey and the United States are now using ideas and materials that originated here, most notably the revised reconsideration form and the template for reconsideration reports. I urge you to give the intellectual freedom fighters the courtesy of a response and to implement those recommendations so that the district can continue to be a beacon for intellectual freedom. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further public comment. And I'm at my 30 minutes. We will move on to agenda item 13, which is, I need a motion and a second to approve agenda items 14.1 to 17.8.
Second.
Motion Dan, second Jess. Any discussion on agenda items 14.1 to 17.8?
Are we including the monthly bills list in that?
The monthly bills list are in that 17.4.
No, I was just saying, I was just curious that you guys were gonna outline certain things, so we can approve some things, and remember it was like that group approval?
Right, so 17.4 includes the monthly bills list. So. Any other comments? Discussion? Okay, so we need a voice vote. So on the motion to approve agenda items 14.1 to 17.8, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Nicole's abstaining. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is an opportunity for old or new business. Does anyone on the board have old or new business to discuss?
I know there was a question, also about busing, right? I know, obviously, right, there's a staffing problem, right, and also a cost problem. Is there some thoughts about how to address, and I know that, I've got kids in sports too, right, so that was some of the topic, right, so we came across this, and there's some thoughts about how to think about that topic for next year. I guess it's probably around the sports, the topic, right?
Yes, every day we are working on it.
Yeah, I can't necessarily think I have any solution rather than parents stepping in and, for my kids' sports, that's effectively what happens. But I appreciate that a lot of parents, right, don't have the opportunity. I can't necessarily. One thing I will say, I don't know if it's an opportunity. Like Central seems to have a a large pool, are we able to share resources with them?
Central has their own fleet and hire their own buses, so they're also paying more for their drivers. I haven't spoken with anybody at Central about it.
Yeah, I was just thinking out loud, right?
Yeah, and my understanding is that everybody's dealing with this challenge.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can't just say.
I was just gonna ask about the liability to the school district if we're not providing busing and students and their parents are involved in an accident, students alone are involved in an accident, to what extent are we somehow negligent?
Pardon?
So,
You're asking the board attorney to discuss liability of the board, but I'm not discussing that in public.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Brian, you had a comment?
It was along the same lines, but this is something you're discussing? Not the, do we have enough bus drivers, but the issue raised, which was an acute one, it's being discussed?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business or old business?
Don't look at
I'm
me.
looking at you. Can rename this section.
No, not this month.
Actually, could I just to add to the sports, because I know a lot of families in districts that have nothing to do with Hunterdon County. Crazy outside the box thought, would schools ever consider, it would take a lot more scheduling, but kind of consolidating games, so like if we know that the lacrosse and the tennis and whatever team are playing, like, can we kind of get them all there as opposed to 3 separate days? So that I know we still need the same number of seats, but I don't know, like, would we ever consider changing our scheduling? And this would require the entire county to do that, so
Skyline Conference.
All the ADs get together.
But if the whole state is
That'd be a
going through this,
logistics
which
thing,
it's
yeah.
actually it's a country thing, right? So if it is, maybe somebody needs to reach out to them and say, hey, can we relook at this?
I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's off the table, right? It's like there's no bad idea. I mean,
A friend of mine is a superintendent in Indiana, and they had a big problem with getting drivers and that. And their district actually got smaller buses, they trained the coaches, because coaches are going to the game, and they worked out the logistics and liability of that. For football, it's a different, with the band and all that, different situation, but most of the sports teams can go on, 1 or 2 vans, and they have the coaches do the driving. So that was a way for them to remedy it, and it's clever, but I don't know what the actual cost would be.
I did mention it to the association president as a topic for conversation in the next negotiations.
Oh, okay, nice.
Thank you.
yes.
So Rob, not to put you on the spot, necessarily to give you the final answer, but I think what one of the public comment speakers mentioned was recommendations around the book, recommendations that were sent to the policy, which I assume landed eventually in the policy committee while you were head of the policy committee.
Right.
Let me just ask, have those been considered, those recommendations?
Yes, and we revised the reconsideration policy as a result of all of the feedback that was received, and so I'm not challenging whether or not there was a response to the intellectual freedom group. I'm not challenging that, but I am, and not every recommendation was implemented, but there were changes to the reconsideration policy that were made as a result of all the activity, all the input and the activity from the past couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
one old business, and it's really old. When Tom Roll was here, we were going to do a committee to look at our sports recommendations through the years for the Hall of Famers. And we never got that off the ground, and I just didn't know if we could maybe rehash that up, because there hasn't been anything done at both North or Voorhees for a long time.
Yeah, I think I do remember that there was some initial interest in a ad hoc Hall of Fame committee, and in fact, I think there was a couple of meetings. I'm not sure if I'm remembering this completely accurately, but I think it sort of died out due to a lack of interest and in members of the board actually picking that up and running with it. Right. So
maybe we can bring it back up.
So we can 100% bring it back up, and I think it was generally considered like it was a good idea, and we talked about whether it was a district-wide or individual schools, and there was for a period of time there was some pretty energized discussion, but then I think when it came down to somebody actually taking the ball and running with it and executing, I think there wasn't somebody that stepped up who wanted to.
Because they had it at both schools, and then it just kind of disappeared itself.
So I think,
Maybe the athletic directors?
I think we can bring that topic back up and talk about the progress that we made a few years ago, and then maybe what caused it to die out, and see if we can overcome that. All right, any other new or old business?
Well, I have, so we received an email from school boards, or the county, I'm sorry, and they're recognizing on Thursday at Mountain View Chalet, actually John is his 10th year. So, congratulations, John.
Congratulations, John. Thanks for bringing that up, Shelley. Well done, John. All right, any other new business or old business? Any older business than Tom Roll?
10 years, that was before Tom Roll.
All right, seeing none, can I get a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 042523-2 for executive session to discuss matters falling under categories 4 and 8 as reflected in the attached resolution. The board expects to be in executive session for approximately 1 hour, and upon return to public session, action will be taken. Can I have a motion? Kim?
Second.
Second, Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All right, we're in executive session. Thank you. A motion and a second to reconvene public session.
So
Motion by
moved.
Tara, second by
Jess.
Nicole.
Oh, Nicole, you got it.
Have a poll.
I didn't see you.
All in favor?
That's why I lean this
All in
way,
favor?
because I can't see.
Favor?
Favor.
John, you in
Opposed?
favor? Yeah.
Abstentions? All right, we're back in public session. Where are we? Any new business? No, all right.
That's not fair.
Okay. No new business.
It should
apparently.
be old business.
Can I get a motion and a second to approve agenda items 22.1 and 22.2, which is the personnel agenda and sidebar agreement between North Hunterdon-Voorhees Education
So moved.
Association and the district.
Second.
Motion by Tara, motion by
Shelley.
Shelley. Shelley,
Jessica.
And we need roll call.
Ms. Bonomi?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Ms. Crisaloga?
Yes.
Mr. Furbanich?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Ms. Hintz?
Yes.
Ms. Cotran?
Yes.
Mr. Bielik?
Yes.
Ms. Salino?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Viado?
Yes.
And Mr. Kirchberger?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. And a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Deb, Jess, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.